House Targaryen of Dragonstone, who once ruled the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. The house words are fire and blood, and indeed they have ruled by fire and blood. Targaryen family is a noble family of Valyrian descent, who has lived in Westeros and Essos before the Doom has taken apart Valyria. What has the story of a great civilization called Valyria been? How it has started and ended? How the Targaryen managed to survive the Doom of Valyria and its extinction? We're going to answer these questions and more in this video. A video which is the first on a playlist that would contain 7 videos talk about the Targaryen family, from their first king ever to Viserys V, with which the series House of the Dragon has started. So if you have watched the series House of the Dragon, those videos would complete the picture for you. If not, that would be for sure a good introduction for a magnificent series called House of the Dragon. Hence, there wouldn't be any spoiler of any kind in those videos. Valyria was the most developed civilization in the world of ice and fire, and ruled Essos continent for 5,000 years. Blood mages, dragons, gods. The world has impacted by this civilization even after 500 years of its extension. 5,000 years ago, before the Doom, ancient Valyria was a civilization of humble shepherds who discovered dragon's egg in a 14 flames or 14 fires. The 14 fires was a chain of volcanoes located in the Valyrian peninsula of the continent of Essos. Tales from Valyria said dragons come from this location, chain of volcanoes. Other tales from Ashai claim the beasts were brought to Valyria from the Shadowlands, mountainous area in the far east of Essos. The Valyrian tamed the dragons with magic taught by vanished people from the Shadowlands, and mastered the technique of rising and training the dragons into devastating weapon of war. Other tales come from a book inside the Book of Ice and Fire called Natural History, written by a symptom, Barth. Barth claims Valyrian blood mages might have created dragons using wyvern stock, species of animal that live in Sothorius, kin to dragons, although they do not breathe fire. Wyverns have a great leathery wings and cruel beaks. In my opinion, I would combine 2 tales to give birth of mine. I speculate Valyrian were 2 blood mages from the vanished people from Shadowlands, and they managed to use it on wyverns, making them breathe in fire. By doing this, Valyrian were attached to dragon by blood. At this end, the beginning of Valyria has started. That was my hypothesis. If you have yours, please write it in the comment section below. And that's how the freehold of Valyria has started, an advanced civilization and the dominant military and cultural power of the known world. Its capital was the city Valyria. The freehold was ruled by the lords freeholder, powerful, noble families. The most powerful of these were the dragon lords. Dragon lords were the dragon-raiding, most powerful nobles of the Valyrian freehold. Some members of House Targaryen, such as Aegon the Conqueror, has been referred to as a dragon lord. The House Targaryen was not the most powerful nor the weakest, and the power in Valyria was not only determined by dragons but also blood mages and the blood purity. The burgeoning of the freehold has frustrated their neighbors to lead them to the first war in the early age of Valyria. It was against their neighbor, the old empire of Ghis. This latter has dominated and controlled much of Essos. The Ghis attempt to stop Valyria's expansion, and the burgeoning freehold was involved in a series of great wars against the old empire. The Ghis Lockstep legions attacked Valyria 5 times, but they could never defeat them. With the help of dragons, Valyria was able to defend and emerge victorious each time. Finally, in the last of the Ghis Wars, the Valyrians marched on their capital, Old Ghis, razed it to the ground, and sowed its fields with salt, sulfur, and skulls, obliterating it and thereby destroying the old empire of Ghis. Adopting slavery from Ghis, Valyria expanded its influence over the surviving Ghis colonies of Slavers Bay and continued to conquer and colonize further, capturing many slaves from conquered lands and using them to mine great wealth from the 14 Flames, as well as build great cities and roadways that lead to Valyria. For many years, the Valyrians were at peace with the Reynor civilization of the Rhoyne, west of the Valyrian peninsula. From the colonial freehold of Volantis, the Valyrians instead crossed the Rhoyne and marched west to wage war on the Andals of Andalos. Rather than be enslaved by the Valyrian, the Andals crossed the narrow sea and invaded Westeros. The Valyrians overwhelmed the remaining Andals of western Essos and established colonies west of their peninsula. The peace between the Valyrian and the Reynors has come up to an end when Valyrian decided to conquer the city-states of the Reynor. The wars were concluded in the Second Spice War, when Valyrian's colony Volantis turned its eye to the ancient and the high civilization of the Reynor. Prince Garin led an army of 250,000 men and defeated the Valyrian armies at Silhoris, Valisar, and Volontheres, where they won their greatest victory by defeating an army of 100,000 men and killing 2 dragons in the process. The Valyrians responded with an overwhelming force of 300 dragons, capturing Garin the Great and burning the Rhoynish armies. Princess Nymeria of Nysar led the exodus of the remaining Reynor out of Essos with 10,000 ships, eventually arriving in Dorne. The singers say her 10,000 ships were filled with women and children, suggesting most of the men of fighting age had died in the conflict with the Freehold. At the height of its power, the Freehold stretched over most of Essos west of the Bone Mountains. Many of the numerous cities were connected by dragon roads. The Free Cities, the self-ruling daughters of Valyria, are spread throughout western Essos. Volantis and Tyrosh begin as military outposts, while Myr and Pentos were founded by merchants in Andal territory. Dragonlords established Ghis as a pleasure treat. Religious refugees founded Lorath, Norvus, and Qohor. Isaria was founded as a colony near the kingdom of Sarnos. Bravos was founded by slaves who rebelled against a Valyrian slaving fleet. And this secret city did not accept the rule of Valyria. Some 2 centuries before the Doom, the Valyrian freehold colonized the island of Dragonstone in the Narrow Sea and established a citadel there. With ineffective resistance from the local lords of Blackwater Bay, the island was the westernmost outpost of the freehold. The Doom of Valyria was a cataclysmic event in 102 before the conquest, after which the city Valyria was utterly destroyed and the Valyrian freehold crumbled and was no more. The Doom fragmented the land surrounding the city itself into numerous smaller islands, creating the smoking sea between them. The area now is described as demon-haunted, and most people are afraid to go there, as all known expeditions to the Shattered Peninsula has ended up in failure. Hence the quote, "The Doom still rules in Valyria." With Valyrian leadership destroyed, the lands outside of Peninsula fell into chaos in the ensuing Century of Blood, which saw the rise of the Free Cities. Isaria, the lost Free City, was reduced to the ruins by the Dothraki, while Gogosos, the 10th Free City, was abandoned after the Dead Death Plague. After the Doom of Valyria and the civilization's destruction, How the Targaryen house has survived the Doom. In 114 before the Conquest, 12 years before the Doom, Rhaenys Targaryen, the maiden daughter of Aenar Targaryen, had a vision of the destruction of Valyria. House Targaryen abandoned their homeland for Dragonstone with 5 dragons, an act seen by other dragon lords as cowardice. 4 of the 5 dragons has died at the early age of moving. The remaining dragons was Valyrian, who has given 2 eggs for Meraxes and Vhagar. You will see them in the series House of the Dragon. Nearby, Driftmark had already been settled by the House Valyrian, a lesser Valyrian family, and Clow Isle became ruled by the Valyrian Celtighers. There is many hypotheses behind the extinction of Valyria, and no one knows the main reason behind it, even the maesters in the Citadel. However, I have chosen 2 hypotheses that are more logical. The first one, Valyrian were known of blood mages, and each family of the Dragon Lord has wizards. Readers speculate that there has been blood mages war between the 40 families, which has led to the destabilization of the 14 Fires volcano, resulting in earthquakes and volcano destabilization. The second hypothesis is Aegon moving to Westeros knowing that Valyria will come up to an end by doing some blood mages, leading to this end. That was the 2 hypotheses. In my opinion, I will merge the 2, and I would say there was a war between Dragon Lords to take full control on the Empire, and Aegon has noticed that this will end up very badly on Valyria, as the Blood Mage is involved. That was my opinion, but I do care more about yours. What do you think is the main reason behind Valyria extinction? We have come up to an end with Valyria, with the relocation of House of the Targaryen to Dragonstone. In the next video we're going to talk about Rhaenys Targaryen, the daughter of Aenar Targaryen, the founder of the Targaryen family in Dragonstone, and all the rulers from Aenar to Aegon the Conquest. Please like the video and subscribe if you're not, and turn on the notification to receive new videos. That would be very helpful to improve our content.